Good morning, everyone. It's Mike. I am the broker builder here on YouTube, and today I'm going to show you how we're going to do the aluminum fascia so we can cover up the bare fascia board. It's the last thing we have to do on this well pump house. I got the door hung last time we were up here. If you didn't watch the video on how we built this door, you can check it out over here. And then we're going to touch up the paint, and this well house is going to be done. A super exciting week here at camp because my first project is going to be complete. And if you haven't been watching any of the other projects, we've been doing the well pump house, 12 by 24 shed build. We got a guy coming to clear the fence lines and some more land today for the cabin. So lots going on at the same time, but it will be super excited to get one project done and completed. So in this video, I'm just going to show you how to do the aluminum fascia. And then we'll do another video on the final pump house. And actually, I'll go through the costs with you guys too, so you can see exactly what I spent on this awesome well pump house. So, without further ado, the aluminum fascia. I chose to use 2x4s for my fascia. You can use 2x6s. A lot of people do on houses. In fact, that's probably the standard. But again, this is just a little well pump house, or if you had a little shed, I think the 2x6 would be just a lot. All right, guys, I got two different kinds of fascia here, just to show you. This here is actually a 6-inch piece that I had left over for another job. I chose to use 2x4 fascia boards just because this is a smaller building, and you can see this would be way too wide. If I slid it up under the drip edge, it's not going to come up nice and tight against my soffit. So I'm going to throw this out here. And I picked up some 4-inch from Home Depot. So you can see once I slide that up under the drip edge, it's going to come nice and tight on my soffit. Okay, this aluminum fascia is 16 feet. So we are not going to have to seam together any of it. But one thing you have to remember is if you have a longer than a 16-foot run, and that is going to be the case on our shed, we have to overlap and we have to seam together the aluminum fascia. Now, you want to always start in the back and seam over top. That way, when you're looking from the front of the building straight down, you're not going to see that seam. I hope that makes sense. You don't want to overlap. You don't want to start the front and go back and overlap, because then you'll be able to see that seam as you look down the building. All right, so that's the main thing. All right, guys, the tools we're going to need for this job is a tape measure, some tin snips. That's what we're going to use to cut the material. Hammer, and then these are white nails that you can buy at Home Depot or Lowe's, or any supply house likely, and it's just so it matches the white fascia. I'm pretty sure you can get them in different colors if you're using a brown fascia, but in this case we're using white. Other than that, there's really not much to it. Of course, I always have my trusty Diamondback tool belt, and not because they pay me to say that, but because it has been one of the best belts I've ever used. I love how the belt itself kind of acts like a weight belt. It sits up higher and not down on your hips and pulling on you all day. So those are the tools. Let's get started. All right, guys, I'm going to start at the back corner here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this fascia the whole way around here, and I'm going to tuck it back in behind there. So I need a measurement from here, a measurement here, okay? And I'll show you how I'm going to cut those. I'm just going to fold them, and I'm going to go ahead and stick it on there. Now, I should still have enough length to get me the whole way down here without having to seam or overlap. So let's go ahead and get those measurements and go ahead and give it a cut. All right, I'm going to go 7 1/4 here. That'll give me enough to tuck behind here. I have 7.5 up front here. Okay, so we're gonna have two parts where we bend. We're gonna bend here at this corner and bend here at this corner. 7 1/4, 7.5. All right, guys, I marked 7 1/4 over here, and then from there 7.5. Use a marker because pencil's tough to see on here. I'm also going to take a square. I'm going to transfer, make sure I have one mark at the bottom and one mark at the top. I'll show you why. All right, with my snips, I'm just going to nip. Hopefully you can see this. I'm literally just going to nip 1/8 of an inch right where that mark is on the bottom here, because I just want to bend this. But this little nip will help the corners go. Same with the next mark at 7.5. Okay. Now at the top, where the L is, the part that's going to butt up against the soffit, I do have to just snip that up till it hits the face. So just like that. Okay, one there. And then one here. Now, I'm also going to just cut a little tiny V to give it a little bit of relief. Okay? So you can see what that looks like. Hopefully you can see what that looks like. So this was my mark. This was my mark at 7 1/4. This was my mark at 7.5. And what you're going to do then, okay, I'm going to lay my square down. Create a line right where I snipped. I go ahead and make the bend like that. Okay. Next one over. Make the bend like that. Okay. Okay, guys, if you're wondering what's going on up here, I had to wait for more siding to come in, and so I am going to finish up this little part today as well. But we do have the soffit finished here and everything, so we can go ahead and this is definitely going to be easier with 2 people, but let's see what we got here. I've got to slide this under. All right, this piece is actually so long that I'm going to have to cut the front to wrap around that side, just like we did here. So what I am going to do, because I only have me here today, and it's just going to be too hard with one person, I'm going to go ahead and seam it. So I'm going to cut, but that'll be good because I can show you guys how that works. I'm going to go ahead and cut this piece of aluminum fascia so it's short and I can just work on this corner here. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut it maybe a foot back. So I have a nice little piece to work on this corner. And then what we'll do is I'll show you how to seam and we'll continue down the front. You got to watch these pieces because they're long and then you end up bending them if you're not paying attention like I did there. If you guys are constantly leaving your tools on a work table and not having them in your belt when you need them, comment down below. All right, so we do have to trim this, and I've got about 3. I'm going to do it about 3 1/8. So I do have to trim this down. Again, guys, what I'm doing here is just this run, which was a 7 1/4. First measurement from here to here. I have to kind of trim this down a little bit because it's going to run into the Gable fascia board. So I can tuck it up under here. But it's just too long now, it won't sit up tight. All let's see what we got here. I don't have a whole lot of room here where I put my trim, but I just got to work this back in there. There we go. Ugh. Okay, cool. So you can give it a, looks like our measurement was good. I'll put the camera up here so you can see how that tucks right in behind the trim, up underneath the J channel here. And then you got to make sure your measurement is good. And then they'll wrap around the corner here like this. All right, guys, I'm around the other side here. So hopefully our measurement's going to be good here. Now, what we have to do, these corners can be tricky on this drip edge. You might want to also have like a putty knife or something with you so you can kind of lift these corners up and tuck this under here. Now, see, I have a sharp edge here from where I at, so I'm just going to give it a little bump so it's not catching. This aluminum can be finicky. Okay, up under there, boom. Nice and tight against my soffit. So what we're gonna do is the next piece, we're just gonna overlap it a few inches right here. Okay, and like I said, when you're standing at the front of the building, when you look down, you won't see that, okay? So we'll overlap this about 2 inches. I'll make my measurements up there at the top, just like I did here, and we'll slide that thing in there. All right, I need a measurement from the corner here up front. And then, like I said, I'm just going to overlap about 2 inches. And what's nice when you have an overlap is it gives you some play up front. If your measurement isn't perfect, you know, it doesn't really matter if you're 1.5 inches here, 2 inches, it gives you a little bit of play. So we're going to cut this 99 inches. And then we'll get our front measurements just like we did in the back, which in theory should be the same. But sometimes they're not. So I think I had 7.5 and that's it here. I'm going to go about 7 1/8. 7 5/8. And then here I've got, I think it was 7 1/4 on the back, which I got, yeah, that's exactly what it is here. So 7 1/4, 7 5/8. Already forgot the measurement. It was 99. Yeah, all right, 99. I'll write that up here. All right, guys, make sure you have your fascia oriented in the right direction before you take your measurement. I've done that before and then had it upside down. We're going to measure over 99 inches. Looks like I'm going to be pretty close here. Hopefully I'll have enough. Okay, so we had 99 down the side. Then we're going to have 7 5/8 from there. I know I have a pencil, but it was in my hand. 7 5/8. And then from there, 7 1/4. All right, so we made it. So again, I'm just going to nip the tops of here, like just maybe even a 1/16 and 1/8. Okay. Once I do that, I can take my square, transfer that measurement to the bottom. Okay, guys, I wanted to give you a close-up what I'm doing here. That's my 99. That was my 7 5/8. And then that was my 7 1/4. And like I said, I just nipped a little bit. That helps it bend up top there. Now I'm going to take my square, and I'm just, well, I already did. I'm going to just transfer it down because I have to cut underneath here. I have to cut this lip off. This is what goes against your soffit. And then we'll take our square, lay it across there, across the cuts, and bend it. All right, guys, this is definitely going to be a little tricky by yourself, but what I'm going to try to do is try to start from the overlap down here and see if I can get it up under the drip, and hopefully it won't slide out of there on me. If I get my front right here where it needs to be, that's a good thing. Okay, I'm caught on something here. All right. So when you're building houses, it can be frustrating because what the framers will shoot nails down through the roof sheathing and they'll stick out the side of the fascia board, and then you get caught on here, and man, can that be frustrating. This finger doesn't like me. I'd already shot a nail through it yesterday, and now I'm hit it with a putty knife. Okay. I don't think that's going to fall out of there on me. So what I'm going to do is work on the front here. Let's see if I can get this. All right, cool. Nice and tight. Wrap down here. All right, guys, I'll bring in close here and show you what we got. We're wrapped around the front here. We're tucked in behind the trim board, and we'll put some caulking there and look really nice. Now, what's going to happen is when our aluminum fascia comes down the gable here, it just simply overlaps here. We'll face nail it. Now, as you come along the side here, you can see you barely see that seam down there, especially when you're looking from the front of the building. If you were looking this way, you would really see it. Okay? So what you're making sure is that you're nice and tight, having your lip come up nice and tight against the soffit. All right, now you're going to ask, how do we fasten this thing now that it's in place? I'm just going to throw some of those. I'm going to throw a couple of the white nails right here, because then my aluminum fascia coming down the gable is going to cover over those nails, and we want to cover everything we can, obviously. I'll put a couple in back here. Okay, we're going to put nails underneath right where we connected our soffit. Okay, we'll put some nails up underneath there. Not every one, every foot or so is fine. There is a code for it, and you have to look on your manufacturer's instructions. But again, up here in the woods, we don't have a code, but I do build everything the same way I do on houses. I just forget. It's either every 8 inches, every foot. Off the top of my head, I don't know. But for now, I'm just going to throw every other one. I'll throw a nail in there, and that'll be good. So I'll show you that. Man, it is 9 a.m. here, and I'm dying in this humidity. But the work's got to get done. Come on. Man, it's bees. I don't know if I'm hitting a nail there or what is going on. Wow, that was way harder than it needed to be. Like I said, guys, every so often it's fine here. I'm not building the Taj Mahal here. But we do get some strong winds up here, and actually one of the hurricanes last summer came through up this way, up near Cedar Key. I'm about 45 minutes from Cedar Key. All right, guys, that's how you're going to do one of the sides. I'll show you how we do the gable coming down now. And then same on the other side, and that's how you do it. If you have any questions about this stuff, fairly new at making these videos. And it's just tough having to move the camera around everywhere, and I got to try to get some more cameras so I don't have to keep moving. I can have one at my workstation and one at the job site and things like that. But again, guys, if you have questions about any of this stuff, just please put a comment below and I'll be happy to answer it. Thanks so much. All right, guys, I got both of my bird boxes wrapped and the sides done. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do this gable. And really, it's just going to be a bunch of tracing. We're going to be angling our piece here. And then we're going to be cutting it flat on the corners just to match the 90 degree on the box. So it'll come down and then basically come up. And I'll show you how we're just simply going to trace that on this little house. So but first thing we got to do is cut a manageable piece to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and put my tape on the edge here. And I've got 49, so I'm going to cut a piece 50 just to give myself a little bit of room. All right, guys. What I'm going to do here is just lay this up here. And make sure that my corners match up. I've got to move over a little bit. Okay. I'm going to kind of put this where it would actually be if it were slid up under the fascia. I want this to come down and basically match the edge of my fascia on the outside. So I can simply just look at the edge here and mark this. Okay? And if I go straight down, I'll put a straight edge here and go straight down to my corner. I should be able to match this up. So make sure your ladder is sturdy. All right. I'll go ahead and put my straight edge on here. I can't stress to you how frustrating it is when your tools are not in your belt. Okay, put it back up. Okay. I didn't cut this very straight here, so I'm gonna angle it just a little bit more. I don't know why that. I just must have had the wrong angle. You want this piece to match up with the edge nice. And you got to be careful when you cut it that it's not too jaggedy. Okay. That's better. So, I'm satisfied that I've got a straight line that's going to match up here. I do that drip edge. Man, I'll tell you, I've cut myself. Probably some of the worst cuts I've ever had have been on drip edge. So be really careful with that stuff. Okay, now what we have to do here is we got to cut off this bottom lip where my bird box is so that my fascia can sit flat, okay? If I still have this lip on the bottom, it's never going to sit flat. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and cut this lip off. Takes a little practice to cut this tin. Might be a good idea to wear gloves when you do this stuff, guys, because I've definitely going to get yourself a few times. It's just a lot. Okay. So my lip is going to tuck up right at the edge of my bird box under and go on top of the soffit. Okay, I'm satisfied that my outside edge here lines up. Now, what we have to do is I got to move my ladder. We're going to have to mark up top. Now, I might be able to do it from this ladder. Just got to be careful here. It's nice when you're out in front so that you can see. Well, yeah, I'm going to move my ladder over here, guys. The problem is, no matter which side you're on, you're going to be kind of guessing a little bit. I know that I'm on there, so I can, as long as my lip is on the edge down here, I know I'm in the right spot. So I'm just going to eyeball this here, guys. I know where my peak is up top here, and I know where the bottom is right here. Okay, now here's where you don't want to make a mistake. You don't want to cut this flat. You don't want to cut this right here, because if the other piece can come up and meet it, that's fine, but you're going to leave a gap, so there's going to be water getting in there, which defeats the whole purpose. So what I'm going to do is cut this lip off. I'm going to cut this lip off here, and I'm going to leave as much as I can of this flat part, and what it's going to do, it's going to overlap onto here. And then the next piece I can cut flat here, and it will overlap this piece so that I don't have an open seam there. If it doesn't make sense, let me know in the bottom and I'll try to explain it better. And your belt. All right. So I'm going to slide up under the drip edge. Okay, when I nail that down, it'll go flat. Okay, guys. You see I left the flat part on here as much as I could, so this next piece will seam right here and there won't be any opening. All right? Let's go and get this thing nailed. We'll start down in this corner to make sure it's got a nice edge on here. Got a little tiny edge here. I'm going to just nip off so that somebody doesn't get cut really bad if they're ever up here, but okay. I think one face nail in there is fine. You could put two. But I'm gonna go ahead and hit this. Ground's just really uneven here, guys, and having a hard time. We'll go ahead and hit this under here close. Again, I'm just putting a nail right where the soffit gap is. You got to be careful you get in the middle there, or will not hit the wood. It'll just bounce on you. So I think 3 in here and a face nail is going to be perfect. But the angle can play with you when you're on a ladder, so you got to kind of peek over and make sure you're in the middle of that little groove. And it will pull up. You know, when you nail, soffit will pull up tight. All right, we're going to get a face nail in here because it's going to be covered anyway. Got to be careful with those nails. They keep breaking. I don't know if I'm hitting a knot there or something. It's happening to my buddy and I in the last house I did. They make a couple different kinds of them. They make a couple, this is a little bit thicker. They make a thin one too, which is better. They just didn't have it in the store, but I don't know, sometimes if you hit another nail or obviously a knot or something, they just bend on you and it can be real frustrating. Okay guys, I'm gonna cut my next piece the same way I did there. I'm gonna trace the 90 here, cut off my lip. But this one, instead of leaving the extra metal, I'm gonna just come straight down here. Should be the same size as my other side. If it's not, that'd be a pretty big problem. So 51 should, yep, 49 again. So I'll go 50 inches, a little overlap there. Man, this can be, working by yourself is, it's an art. All right, my marks. Sometimes it takes a little adjustment to get this angle, guys, because you can't see great. But again, in my opinion, it's still, make a couple adjustments. It's still way faster than measuring. All right, I'm happy that I'm running parallel with the outside of my bird box. You know, it's funny, guys, sometimes I don't feel like I'm the best at explaining this stuff, and I used to be a state certified school teacher, and some of my teaching skills are gone. But anyways, again, if I'm not clear, just put a comment below and I'll try to explain it a little bit better. But I'm happy that the edge of my fascia lines up with my fascia board on the side. So I'm just wanting to come flat right along here. Now I need to mark right where my bird box starts and my J channel starts, so that, again, I can make this flat. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my lip off. These snips aren't as good as cutting that, that's for sure. All right, again, I'm going to slide this down, make sure I'm happy. See, guys, this gets a little wavy from the cut. Take your hammer and kind of bang it down. But you got to be careful. This stuff scratches so easy. And at the end of the day, you can paint all this stuff. And I actually might end up painting this to match the trim. I don't know. Some people do, and it's a really personal preference. It's just, again, more work and more time. So, but if it's bothering me after it's all up, that this is white and the trim's teal, then I'll go and paint it. All right, now I'm simply going to come up here. I'll take this back out there because I need to go ahead and just mark my peak, the bottom of my peak. Take my square, draw a straight edge. Go ahead and cut that off. I'll tell you what, as hard as they are to get in, they are not going to come out of there. I don't care what hurricane. All right, guys, get a couple more nails in here. All right, friends, there you have it. Aluminum fascia, covering up the actual fascia boards themselves. This isn't a must-do on every house. It's just personal preference. Lots of stuff in the South here, we use aluminum fascia. I think all parts of the country, but you can also buy kind of different fascia boards that don't need to be covered. But, you know, they say they're waterproof, but the reality is they end up becoming damaged at some point. So it's a great way to protect your fascia boards. You can go ahead and throw some caulking along these seams and things like that if it makes you happy. Or if you think you have a better way of doing it, let me know. Guys, one thing about you know, being a former school teacher way long ago before I got into real estate and construction. Well, I was in construction actually before I was in teaching, but before I got into real estate and took a little break from construction. You know, one thing is I don't ever feel that I'm too good to learn. So if you guys have a better way of doing things and maybe this is something you do every single day, you're certainly probably gonna be better at it than me. So just let me know in the comments below, and thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.